And I appreciate all of you coming in on Zoom this evening on a beautiful night. The roll call, I think I can do it just off the top of my head. Chris Shipper, Linda Andros, Marty McLaughlin, and Susan Schweitzer. The listening in group or the attending, Tom Stadler, Sven Englund, and Liz Donovan. Did I leave anybody off, Tom?
You see, there's a Rod Little joined and Kathleen Holland's there.
Oh, Kathleen Holland, thank you. And Ron Little?
Rod, R-O-D is the name.
Yes, okay. Fine. Then let me, thank you for attending, everybody. Let me just move to approval of the minutes for June 11th. I'm pleased to report we corrected Marty McLaughlin's name to the correct spelling.
All right, good.
Can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes for June 11th. Something happened.
Marty, would you like to second the approval?
I'll secondary approval, sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, approved. On discussion topics, I'm going to start with Conservation Commission, Sustainable New Canaan. We are just starting the process of putting together a grant or a crowd raiser fundraising program with Sustainable Connecticut matching dollar for dollar. The program that's been suggested is was organized in conjunction with Robin Bates Mason, who is kind of acting as the coordinator for Sustainable Connecticut in New Canaan. And in discussions with that organization, they thought the pollinator pathway idea was the strongest project idea and one that they would support with matching funds. So that's the program we're going to head towards. And Marty, I don't think you've had a chance to look it over. I think Linda and Susan have had a little bit of insight into it. But basically, it is a kind of like a neighborhood fundraising program. We're going to try to raise $10,000 from friends and neighbors for a native plant, to plant native plants. Now, and then we will get a matching grant from the Sustainable Connecticut organization for $10,000.
Wow,
So so we end up with a $20,000 program to remove invasives, to plant native plants, and then keep a little bit of money to maintain what we've got, whether it's required for watering or gator bags to keep things watered. This would tie in pretty well with the program or with the improvement of the main trailway as well. So that's going to be set up. I had a very helpful comments from Susan on it, and I've got an advisor called at Patronicity who is helping design the web page, and Linda has been in and reviewed it. So I think this is going to be a program we're going to launch. And if I understand it correctly, this will also, oh, Cam, welcome to the meeting. We'll add you to the attendees. This will also give us points towards the Sustainable Connecticut accreditation or bronze level accreditation, which is the other objective. So we kind of get 2 or 3 benefits from doing this as a town, for Bristow Park, and for pollinators. So I kind of like the whole setup. I don't know whether any of you have questions about it or whether any of you have participated in a crowdsourcing event, but I think the way we're going to do it is the guideline from Sustainable Connecticut is not very stringent. We need to generate at least 25 different donors. No one donor can give more than 25% of the lift. And I thought, if there are 5 of us on the Conservation Commission and we each found 5 people, or 4 people, including ourselves, we'd make some pretty good progress. Welcome, Rod Little. And I like it because it gives us a chance to reach out to the neighborhood, and we'll figure out a way to get on the New Canaan Moms or on some other websites, and maybe do a little social media to support the program. Any questions about that?
No, I tell you, I think that, Chris, you're doing a wonderful job. I swear to God. It's such a pleasure working with everybody. But you have an opportunity again to come back when we're asking for money to the Exchange Club again. They can help us. And your appeal will make a big difference.
Thank you.
When we're ready to do this, I'm going to have you come down
Mhm.
and make an appeal. And I think
Okay.
you'll hit gold.
I'd love to work with the Exchange Club also because you guys do service days where they come out, and we've been very fortunate. Steve Pinney came out
Yeah.
and replaced a series of boardwalk planks.
I know, but
And
we
you've
were
done
going,
it.
I think the virus screwed us up this spring. We were going to do some.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe there's a way to do it in small teams of, separate projects, but thank you for that. I will get on to, in the Bristow section, more details on where we are in fundraising and where the overall program is. Cam or anyone else, any concerns or questions about participating in the Pollinator Pathways Sustainable Connecticut effort?
I think we just need to come up with a timeline and a program and
Right.
establish the sort of structure of this. Most of the people that I spoke with who participated in this program say 3 months is your window. After that, you lose interest.
Right.
You need to have a strategy because you can't approach people once, you have to approach them. They suggested at least 6 times in 3 months. And so we just need to figure all that out and put together a program.
I think so, Susan. That's really appropriate. The advice I got from the Patronicity advisor, we actually have a manager or I guess a consultant from the organization that manages the crowdsourcing site, and they suggested the best programs run for 4 to 8 weeks.
Mhm.
That there's a start, a mid, and a finish, but they tail off pretty quickly, and it's also depending on how big a lift you're trying to get at. They also said that if it's going well, you can always have an add-on or a green shoe where you could accept more funding and get more matching. So the idea is to have an ambitious funding goal and a good program and hopefully achieve it. And like anything, the first 25% is relatively quick. It's the middle 50% that's hard. And then once people see you're up to 75%, then it kind of piles in for the last 25. So I'm with you on that and on the overall budget.
So it would be good to think about starting this probably sometime in September.
I'm with you. I had a brief discussion. I didn't think you were on yet, but I was thinking we might do it from 1 September to like 15 October.
I would agree. And then with the ability to go a little bit further.
Sure, if needed to extend.
Right.
Thanks. So that sounds good timing. And then, if each of us reach out to people, I'm already reaching out. And just in case you're wondering, I'm reaching out to Sven, Tom Stadler, and
So
Marty
Chris,
McLaughlin and a few
And
other
I'm
people.
reaching out to
Chris.
Chris Shippers and Marty McLaughlin.
say Chris, the only picture I see is yours. And
Oh,
when
slide
everybody
the
else-
screen down at the
Well, I
bottom of
mean,
the
when
screen.
other people speak, it's just a white blob.
If you go to the bottom of your screen, scroll down,
Yeah,
and then you'll see certain types of boxes, like 2 boxes, 4 boxes, 8 boxes.
yeah, I see that.
If you click on that, you get the, I'm not sure what, the tile effect.
Well, I don't see that.
Gallery view.
Review.
I'm off now.
Gallery view.
I don't know where
Pam,
the
you
hell-
explain.
I had muted my video. Now I'm on. I'm back on.
Try
I
the
don't know how to-
upper
I'm
right-
off totally now. What the hell do I do?
Go to the upper right corner and see if you see some review.
Oh, Jesus. This is terrible. What happened here?
Well, we can hear you, Marty, which is the
All
important.
right, well, something went over here. So I was
Wait, wait.
complaining, I could only see Chris now I can't even see him.
Marty, what you need is one of your grandchildren there.
Oh,
There
I
you are.
got
You're
Chris
back.
back again.
And we got you.
And we have you, Marty.
Oh, good, good. I see you now, good. That's wonderful.
Marty, are you on a
Okay.
phone?
I don't know what
Are you on a phone?
No, I'm on my iPad.
Go to the upper right corner and see if you see something called speaker view.
I don't see anything. I have in the lower right-hand side, I have my picture. I see that. And
I
then
think
see your
I see
picture here.
I see
Now-
St.
now-
Paul de Vence.
Now I have two white blobs on my screen. And now I have a real person again.
It's the old
All
get
right, you gotta
smart
get
cone
one of
of
your
silence.
grandchildren in
Oh,
there.
yes, Cam, how are you, baby?
All
How are
right.
you? Good to see you again. Are you doing well?
Yeah,
You look good.
Thank you.
Looking better than I do, I'll tell you that.
And your house looks so clean, Cam.
yeah. If I flip the camera around, you might not agree with that.
Perfect. All right, I'm Marty, I'm sorry, I'm gonna continue the discussions. For the purpose of this evening, I'm gonna skip point B on the river water testing, but we'll get a report on our next commission from Harbor Watch on what they've done. I'm gonna pass on solar power installations, other than I am hoping those things are generating tons of kilowatt hours in these hot summer days. I'm on topic D, which I would like to get your opinions on. The Conservation Commission, Robin, and others have said we need to work on our a master plan for the transfer station, which now handles our debris, house debris, and garbage deliveries and things like that. But transfer stations are also an important point for recycling, and also for trying to figure out, as I think you've all read in the press, the cost of operating the transfer station has climbed extraordinarily because there's no money in recyclables, and they're running out of landfills. So it has to be trucked, in a 40-foot container, trucked to a burn, and that's also not a great outcome. So I'm wondering, and really the message here is, one, would you mind if I set up a visit to the transfer station where we would tour the facility and listen to various ideas on how New Canaan can better optimize the transfer station, and to include more or better recycling. And the other concept is a composting area, and the other suggestion is a swap shop where you bring household items that you no longer need and people pick them up, or they eventually get thrown, before they get thrown into the garbage, they end up being recycled into the community. So, I think I'll be coordinating this with Robin, but I would like to send out work on a series of dates with Tiger Man, where a group of us from the commission, along with town councilors and other interested parties, tour the transfer station and take a look at its entire footprint and say, how would we redesign this for 2050, for the future? And then the other side of that is, of course, how do we reduce the amount of household waste that goes into the stream? Cam, I don't know whether anything like that had been picked up before by the commission.
No, we have definitely, probably 5 years ago, I think we did talk about the swap thing, because Darien has one and people had seen it, really liked it. And I know personally I could use something like that, because we have stuff that I don't want to toss out, but on the other hand, somebody else could probably use it.
Yeah, it's like my third toaster oven that I can't, that I'm trying to figure out, what do I do? My kids don't want them anymore either. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to talk with Tiger. I'm going to try to arrange with you, or invite you all to visit the transfer station in a group with social distancing, but to go tour it and listen to Tiger. And I never remember Don's last name, Tom, the head of the transfer station.
There's a Donnie Smith down there.
Donnie Smith. I think he's the local manager, right?
Yeah.
So we can get a kind of a tour of that and listen to their ideas on how the future of the transfer station should evolve. But it strikes me that it's something that we have to become more efficient at, because it's getting expensive, and it's also environmentally correct. So just bringing that topic up. Any questions on that front? Nope.
Something happened. Well, no, I'll tell you, I just want to say that we should show a lot of interest in that. And it's important for the future, and being part of it is very important.
Thank
So
you.
Doing that is right down the alley, right where you would be going.
All right, so then I will undertake an effort in the next week or two to set up some visitation dates in the coming month and see whether we can't launch some ideas. And in particular, I kind of, I'm becoming a fan of master plans. I don't know why, but just, big concept ideas and then figuring out how do you make some of that happen. So anybody else want to comment on a transfer station master plan concept?
Chris, if you could just make sure to keep us in the loop, I would definitely like to go too.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we will definitely do that, and come to you with ideas. I suspect that we'll come up with some concept ideas and then see, do a little bit of field research to say what else is going on in the big world out there, and then decide how you might proceed. Okay. I'm not going to discuss the Conservation Commission budget. We haven't allocated any funds just yet. Oh, so I'll just quickly work down on Bristow where things stand. It's very exciting for me, and I'm very grateful to our town councilors who supported and helped pass the $199,500 phase 1 restoration of Bristow. I think with that in place, we are going to make a big difference in Bristow in terms of accessibility and visitation. So we're incredibly grateful for the I think almost unanimous support in front of almost every commission, board, and council to restore Bristow. And I think that this has got the makings of a very good public-private partnership if we follow through. On point B, the Church of Latter-day Saints has postponed their restoration work. You all know that Wetlands approved it, and I should point out that the bid package has gone out, and if any of you are available tomorrow, I believe there's going to be a walk around. There are 4 different bidders who are bidding on parts of that project. If I get a time, I'll send a note out to all of you about it. Although I'm now thinking, Tom, if I invite more than one, if I invite 2 conservation commissioners, does that constitute a meeting?
I'm sorry, it was my phone was ringing with some spam. Yes, that very well could constitute a meeting. Yep.
And so there's a notice period and everything like that?
24-hour notice to just do a simple agenda, call it, whatever you're gonna do.
All right. Let me find out whether if more than 2 of you want to attend, then I'll have to make that notice and put it up. Okay. Inland wetlands was very helpful and few restrictions, so that should work well. I don't know if any of you have been in there, but we've had 3 college students, each working 40 hours to clean out invasives and pull logs out of the pond and a variety of projects. And it's having a positive effect visually on the property. And not only that, but as people transit Bristow, they're more engaged as to what's going on, where are you guys working, what are you working on, what are you trying to do? So we're providing jobs and improving the park. There will be, I think, as many as 11 trees coming out. That's required in order to make the Greenlink Trail safe and also sustainable. If you have large trees growing next to a trail, the trail eventually gets entirely disrupted. To balance that, the program is calling for planting 30 native species trees and a variety of trees on the property.
I'd like to see more evergreens in there.
That's also highlighted in another report I recently sent you. I'm with you on that. They're great winter habitat. So underway, that'll be a big change when the trees start coming down. And I sent you all a recent note from Connecticut Audubon, Patrick Cummins, who also pointed out the importance of taking down trees to create a stadium effect, which is what birds really like. So we have to kind of, there's a sadness in me of taking out trees. And to be fair, they're mostly Norway maples, and they're hard to love because they're prolific. But there are 1 or 2 birches and 1 or 2 small oaks and a large tulip tree. And I made sure that we're balancing it out by planting. So I don't know whether Rob Little is on the phone, as he has any concerns or questions in that regard.
It would be nice to have a timeline on this because for the launching of the Sustainable Connecticut fundraising program, it would be nice to have sort of a moment where people could come and see what's being done, and because it might improve our possibilities for fundraising for the sustainable grant.
Great idea. I think what'll happen is the bids will go out.
The bids are
They'll
fine,
come
but I
back.
think, keep going.
Yeah, when the bids go out, I guess when they come back, they'll include a timeline, and that will give us a good idea. And that, I think, is also the reason why we want to kind of wait till September 1, because then we'll have much more clarity into the build-out program.
Mhm.
Getting back to the tree selection for a second, I have 2 shagbark hickories on my place here, and it throws off those nuts, and the animals go nuts about it. And also, they're a pretty tree. The trunk is beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's an unusual tree. So if there's any way we could move a couple of those in there, it'd be very nice.
Okay, that's a good point. We'll keep that in mind. I know that there are a couple of them on the property, but I have to look carefully at the 30 trees being planted, whether there's one in there. Could be a pignut hickory or a shagbark hickory, something like that. Okay, thanks, Marty. Seed money donations. We've now burned through 600 pounds of bird food, and we've collected almost $300 just in that little donation box.
Wow.
So it's extraordinary. Some people drop a 20 in, somebody dropped a 50 in, and then there's just dollars and coins and change regularly that Sarah Herring is taking care of. Oh, that reminds me, Marty.
Somebody must have had a good idea about that. I wonder who
Yeah.
that was.
I think that was you. Marty, you should, I think at one point I gave you the key to that box when I was leaving on holiday.
Yeah, I got it somewhere. I don't know.
All right, well, if you can find it, let me know, because
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere, it seems, for a while.
All right.
Quickly on donations, I think I informed you that the New Canaan Community Foundation gave us a grant of $2,750 towards the Green Link and Green Link enhancement. The Exchange Club very generously gave us a grant of $5,000 towards the what we call the first pond area, sitting area, or the Glen. What do you call it, Marty? The Glen with a view?
It's a glen and the garden with a view, yeah. Also, the Exchange Club would do more before the year's out.
Thank you. Well, also nice to know, which is that when the Exchange Club gave a grant of $5,000, another private member of the Exchange Club also matched it by $5,000. So that's a $10,000 Exchange Club support that we got, which is wonderful. Next point is we are in discussions with a major donor for a 5-year grant commitment of $100,000. And you should know that donors are more sophisticated these days than in the old days. And in particular, they're willing to make a 5-year commitment, but they expect results every year. So they love to have the option of saying, if you don't perform, I don't send you this next grant, because most foundations now have a list of potential donors that's much greater than their giving capacity. So it's easy for them to take you off the list if you're not performing. So, and in that regard, the performance requirement isn't just, are we finding other donors, but is the town continuing in its efforts to improve the park? I can also say that I have signaled to a couple other foundations, and I'm optimistic that we might find another big commitment going forward. But all of that depends on this first stage, and that's why it was so important to get the 200,000 of the 199,500, because when donors see the town is in, they love the leverage.
You see my picture?
Thank you, Marty. I
There's
see
the
it.
keys. I got the keys.
Susan, you mentioned the Aquarian grant request. Any timing or update on that?
No, we won't hear about that till August.
Okay. On point K, a landscaper who is doing a major project in New Canaan has offered to plant 1,000 native plants.
Wow.
That's an interesting potential tie-in to the whole Sustainable Connecticut, because generally speaking, there's more money in making the whole than there is in the plant in terms of the labor. So getting a landscaper willing to plant is a real win. So we'll keep informed on that. And then last point here is that I received a consulting contract from Patrick Cummings, who is the executive director of Connecticut Audubon, and he has agreed to have his organization consult to the Conservation Commission on Bristow. And I sent you a quick note. They did their first tour last night, and he came up with 18 suggestions that are all spot on in terms of how we can become a better bird sanctuary. So I think we're getting the pieces in place with Audubon, the town, the Keith Simpson Associates on the master plan and the funding. We're just kind of, got to get ready to get this project taking off and installed. Any other questions, comments regarding Bristow? Okay. I don't know if any of the other listeners have anything they'd like to hear or know. Okay. And then finally, on the open space report, I have not yet reached out to the Land Trust. Cam, I was wondering whether you couldn't take that on to reach out to the Land Trust and to Aaron Leflin to request an update of the open space map and the list of potential. I think that they've done a prioritized list of the most environmentally important open spaces left in New Canaan.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, if you want to draft a note or reach out to Aaron directly to say, 2 years ago, we started this process, it's time for an update, and there was funds set aside to allow for that update, we would love to get it.
We conservation said.
The Conservation Commission, yes.
Right. Okay.
Thanks, Cam. Completes that point. Any discussions or anybody want to raise any new business items? Sounds like no.
Well, I want to say one thing. When do
Please.
you think we will have an official open for the Bristol? What does that look like? In other words, when we get all the signs up and we get to move in there and do some plantings and things like that, when do you think that's going to show?
To be honest with you, I'm kind of thinking November, 1st of November, because there's a chance that the main trail will be put through by then. And it's also the autumn leaf colors.
Well, also, if you're going to do planting, the fall is a good time to do it.
Right. And that's why I'm thinking the Sustainable Connecticut, if it ends, that pollinator pathway program, if it runs to mid-October, we could have a mid-October to mid-November planting cycle. And, we could have an opening, and then people who show up at the opening are also good potential volunteers to help with planting. You get them in and then you hook them. You hook them. And you hook them and you give them a shovel.
Shovel, yeah.
So good point, Marty. Any other points anybody else wishes to raise? All right, if that's the case, it's now, according to my computer clock, 7:02,
Kathleen,
and I think we can call an adjournment. Tom?
I think Kathleen had a comment.
Oh, Kathleen, please.
She's on mute. Can you take it off mute?
Yes, am I, you can hear me now, hopefully?
I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to comment on, first of all, a very efficient meeting, I love it. A comment on the let's call it reimagining our transfer station. I think it's a terrific exercise to sort of relook at things and have your input, you know, on the overall conducting of how the operation runs down there. I think our transfer station is outstanding. They really do a terrific job, but it's always good to kind of put a fresh set of eyes on things, and also the additional possibilities of some composting areas, perhaps some removal of items that don't necessarily have to go into the bulk waste. We all like to recycle if we can. Some of you may be familiar with Nantucket and what they do, but Nantucket Island has a terrific operation. And with COVID-19, some things have had to change. But anyway, I'd be interested in just following up and hearing more about that at some point in time.
Thanks, Kathleen. I think you're right. It's they do a great job, and they've modified their program over time from incinerating to, you know, what we used to have our own dump right there, right? And then incineration, and that's moved off. There's a question of how does it evolve for the next 20 years or so. And I believe Tiger is interested in kind of raising some thoughts and ideas in that area. So it might be it might be an interesting project to develop a master plan that gives us a little bit of a roadmap of where to go with some flexibility, you know, on timing and how things roll out. So thank you for that. Any other comments or questions from the participants? That being the case, then I formally close the meeting at 7:05 on Thursday, July 9th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you
night.
all.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
too. Thank you, Tom, for setting it up. Liz, thank you. Sven, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care, Tom.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.